Father, I pray that you give direction for our clergy. I pray, God, that you would give direction for our police department. I pray that you would give direction for our community. Bind us together in the spirit of love as only you can do. You can make us as one. We rebuke every spirit that's not of confusion. I pray that there be peace where there is confusion. I pray that there be love where there is hate, God. I pray, God, that you uplift this clergy council, God, that it might be a blessing not only to the community, not only, God, to our police department, but I pray even to them. Let it bless them for being a blessing. Bless us to be a blessing is my prayer. We pray. Amen. Let's give the Lord a hand clap.
Asking the chiefs to come and take a picture with us, and I failed to recognize Pastor Deborah Hodge. Where is she? She left. Okay, and Pastor Lamont Granby. He is the president of the 47th Precinct Clergy Council. Where is he? Oh, okay.
Moving along with our program, before we move on to our honorees, I wanted to introduce our new Deputy Borough President. Everybody settle down, and I'm going to bring up Deputy Borough President Marika Scott McFadden for the first time here. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I know what I should say. Is the Bronx in the house? Oh, okay. I'm still learning. And now I know how to get your attention. Is the Bronx in the house? Okay. Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., I want to thank you for inviting me here today. I want to thank you for inviting me here to fellowship with you this morning. Thank you. So these days, I need everybody's attention. Thank you so much. Because these days in the Bronx Borough President's office, we are preparing for the beginning of Bronx Week. This year is the 47th celebration of Bronx Week. And we are gearing up and preparing for that, and it begins tomorrow. So that's something that we're super excited about, and I know everyone in this room knows about Bronx Week, but it is an opportunity for us to celebrate our all things that are being that are growing in the Bronx, that are tributes to the prosperity and the resurgence and the renaissance of the Bronx. So this week, we are also going to be celebrating some Walk of Fame honorees. They are, I don't know if you guys know the actress Maggie Sith from Billions and Sons of Anarchy, a Bronxite. We're going places. We're all over Hollywood now. Come on, Billions associated with the Bronx. Yes, thank you very much. Clap for that. Thank you. We're going to be celebrating a hip-hop artist and rapper, Slick Rick. Everybody knows Slick Rick. Okay, I know we're pretending to be young, but I know some of y'all know who Slick Rick is, a prominent Bronxite here, who still resides not that far from where we are today, and if I'm not mistaken, is a resident of the Precinct. And then finally, we will be honoring activist and creator of the hashtag #MeToo movement, Tarana Burke. And sadly, it's something that is timely and is needed, but that super young woman and activist all over the country is a happy and proud Bronxite. So please put your hands together for our new Walk of Fame honorees this year, and I hope that everyone will come out and visit the I Love the Bronx website, where you'll be able to find all of the events that you'll be able to attend. Because only in the Bronx is a week, 10 days. We celebrate Bronx Week from May 10th to May 20th. So in the Bronx, you get 3 extra days to, do whatever you want to do with it. Only in the Bronx. So we know that our borough continues to get safer, and that's due to the tremendous partnership and fellowship of officers and the communities they serve. And we have seen record lows in crimes all over the Bronx and all over the city. And this would not be possible without the men and women from the 47th Precinct and going out every day and addressing the issues and I'm so sorry. Don't hurt me. That's my whole precinct. It just comes out. I apologize. Okay, I'm done now. 40. The paper says 45. Oh my goodness. Okay, some of the veteran electeds here, tell me how to get out of this. Councilman Vaca? But to the point I was trying to make, that it is the officers in this precinct that address the concerns of and issues of our borough every day. And for that reason, it's my pleasure to be here to see all of the honorees be celebrated, and for their contributions to the community and the Bronx as a whole to be celebrated. So you know that we have a lot to be excited about in the Bronx, and it's not just the reduction of crime, but also investments, and that investment includes a $60 million investment going to the rehabilitation and revitalization of the Orchard Beach Pavilion, which is it's okay. It's okay to clap for it, because it's one of the highlights that are coming through the borough president's office and into the Bronx within the next few years. So we look forward to celebrating better times. We look forward to celebrating Bronx Week. And on behalf of the borough president, Ruben Diaz Jr., I thank you again. Please invite me back. I will get it right next time. I promise. Congratulations to the honorees.
Okay, our next speaker is actually someone who does not represent our community. However, he started in our community, grew up in our community, and interned in our community, led the law review, I guess, at Lehman High School, won challenges around the city 2 years in a row. That was unheard of. Richie Torres is one of the youngest council members on the city council, the youngest member. Okay, I wasn't sure of that. I didn't want to misquote. But he's shown himself to be one of our strongest advocates citywide. So he wanted to be here because he started out with Jimmy Vaca. And I'm happy to introduce our councilman, Richie Torres. Come on up, Rich.
As Bob said, I actually got my start in politics as an intern for Councilmember Jimmy Vaca. I'm still commonly mistaken for the council intern. So no one ever calls me a veteran elected official. But even though my council district does not include the 45th precinct, I was born and raised in Throgs Neck. So there's a sense in which I feel like I'm coming back home. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. And, you know, as the chief noted, in 1991, when I was 3 years old, there were more murders in the Bronx alone than there are in the city as a whole today. There is no big city in America that has seen as substantial and has sustained a reduction in crime as New York City, and that is a testament to the unrivaled professionalism of the NYPD. So let's give them a round of applause. But I'm also here to join all of you to pay tribute to the finest public servant I know, Jimmy Vaca. Not only has he spent 4 decades in public service, from the school board to the community board to the city council, but he's been a mentor to many, right? Whether it's the Bronx DOT Commissioner, Navarro Lopez, whether it's the District Manager for Community Board 10, Matthew Cruz, the District Manager for Community Board 11, Jeremy Warnicki, and the valedictorian from the Jimmy Vaca School of Public Service, myself. I can assure you, there is no elected official who has done more to lift the next generation of public servants. So Jimmy, you have something that few elected officials have. You have a legacy that will live long after your time in public service. It is one worth celebrating, and this is an honor that is truly richly deserved, so I'm honored to be here with you. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, so now it's time. We've chosen some honorees from our community. One of the honorees, you know, we always tried very hard not to choose any elected officials because they get paid to do the job and they should be doing a great job. But Jimmy Vacker is no longer an elected official. Jimmy Vacker, I wouldn't call him retired, but he's no longer doing the same work. He's still being a mentor to many as a professor. And he's been a mentor to me as well. I started on Community Board 10 about 25 years ago. And Jimmy kind of showed me the ropes, yelled at me plenty of times. We disagreed on a lot of things, but we agreed on more than we disagreed. Jimmy showed me that when you can't get the elected officials to agree, you don't just stop. You keep fighting. You do protests. Jimmy had people out in the street. You knew the neighbors. You knew the landlords. So if they were trying to rent to somebody you didn't really want in the community, Jimmy knew who to call. You knew how the city worked. And you knew how to make friends. So that the city officials, the different agencies, would bend over backwards for Jimmy. If there was a lot that needed to be cleaned, and it wasn't a city lot, Jimmy somehow managed to get it done anyway. No matter what it was that needed to be done in this community, Jimmy Vacker knew how to make it happen. When it came to your homes, your addresses, you could give Jimmy any address in this community board, and he'd say, oh yeah, that's between this and this, and this is what went on there this time and that time. I don't know how we did it. There wasn't a street number or a street address that he didn't know throughout this entire community board. One of the geographically largest community boards in the city of New York. There was nothing that he couldn't identify here in our community. And I'm sure still is. Jimmy, I know, isn't going away. I know he's going to be around. And I am so proud and honored to be able to give him this award. So I'm kind of glad you're retired so that we can honor you. I know you've received many honors over the years, but I hope this is the first of many as a civilian. So please come on up, Jimmy Vacker. Let's honor Jimmy Vacker.
I didn't get this much applause when I was in office. I don't know what happened. Wow. Thank you very much. I'm not going to give you a long-winded speech, although I could. But, you know I'm not retired. Never. I will never retire. And many of you sitting here are not retired. You're not. I'm a college professor now, and I mentor a lot of people. People want my advice, and whether they want my advice or not, I give it anyway. So I'm not shy. But I'm in awe of many of you, my friends, for years. First, I want to thank the 45th Precinct. I think the captain we have now, Captain Gons, is one of the greatest people I've worked with over the years, and I want to thank him. And even since I left office, I want to be totally transparent. Even since I left office, I have texted him and called him several times. I'm still on patrol. When you have your eyes peeled for everything as long as I have, you are always going to have your eyes peeled. I called the station house just yesterday because I thought I saw somebody dumping something illegally, garbage. And oh yeah, I'm out there. I live here. And I take pride in our community. Now, it's strange to say this, but I was thinking of something when I drove up, and now I look at this room, and I see everyone. You know, I'm around a long time. A long time. And I'm not retired, despite what you hear. Somebody on my staff the other day called me, my former staff. He says, it was around 10:30 in the morning. So he says, Jimmy, what's that noise in the background? I says, I'm doing something. What do you mean? He said, Jimmy, if I'm interrupting you watching The Price is Right, I'm sorry. I said, I'm not watching The Price is Right, I'm busy. But when I was driving up, I was saying to myself, you know, I was around in 1977. In 1977, that's when Board 10 was formed. And I was head of an organization called the Northeast Bronx Community Council, which we had 25 civic associations from all the neighborhoods here. And I was head of that, and then Borough President, oh my God, was it Abrams, I think? Abrams put me on the community board. That's how far I go back, 1977. So in 1977, when they formed Board 10, Co-op City was added to Board 10. Board 10, the old Board 10, never had Co-op City, and we did not have City Island. They used to be in Old Bronx 12. But now we had to form new districts. And I want to tell you, nobody in Throgs Neck wanted to go with Co-op City. They all said, Jimmy, what do we have in common with people who live in high-rise Mitchell-Lama housing? And then people in Co-op City used to come to the meetings and say, why are we being put with Throgs Neck? We have nothing in common with people in two-family homes. I was one of the few people, and this was very unpopular at the time, but I tend to do things that are unpopular. If I think I'm right, I stick to my guns. And I said, you know what? This grouping makes sense because all of us are powerful in different ways as well as in similar ways. And we could supplement each other. We could complement each other because we can draw on that strength as long as we stay united and don't get involved in picayune things. And I want you to know, I hate to say it, but I will. Obviously, from this room, I was right. I was right. So, this district has been the most successful, and I'll go a step further. When I was a Community Board 10 district manager, which I was there 26 years, seems like yesterday, we were doing so well. We were the best board in the city, and we were known as such. Because in the 1990s, I think it was 1992, Westchester Square and Zariga said, Board 10 is doing so well, we want to join Board 10 too. And in 1992, we added 16,000 people to our district from the next community that thought we were doing so well. So, let me tell you, it's been a great run.
You were right then too.
I was right then too. In the city council 12 years, and Richie said, and let me tell you something. You see this Richie Torres? He's going to go places, and I'm going to be there. I will come out of retirement. But all of my staff are in the best places. If I tell you, I have commissioners, deputy commissioners. Michael Rivadeneira is with me, was my chief of staff. He's now a big shot with the YMCA, right, Michael? He has gone places. And, you know, I'm proud. Navardo Lopez was here. I have Jeff Lynch, deputy commissioner, 2 district managers, Jeremy and Matt Cruz, and I have people in nonprofit sectors. They all started with me. But if you could put up with me, you could be anything you want. Let me tell you something. I could be a pain in the neck. But we got things done. So I did have a long speech, but I want to tell you, I thank you for honoring me. I'm not retired, please, I'm not. I'm teaching, I'm a college professor, I love my students. I help out now with many sports organizations where they need help. I'm there doing that. But I will always be cognizant of the fact that I want to keep a good community for all of us. All of you gave me 12 years as your elected official. You honored me. That trust, and it's overwhelming, especially with what you read about today. I hold being an elected official in that high esteem, and you honored me. And understand always that in my heart, I know we did good things. But you know what? There are a lot of challenges that lay ahead. Don't think that everything is in the past. We have to look to the future. And challenges lay ahead. And you know what? Challenges lay ahead, and we need leadership. Always promote good leaders. Don't carpet them. Support them. We do have that problem. We don't have enough leaders. And going forth, if you find a good leader, cultivate them, support them, because all of us have to have trust in each other. All of us need to understand that if there are challenges, they're not insurmountable. We all think we face challenges in life that are insurmountable, but then in context we understand that not only are they not insurmountable, but they must be met. And we will collectively, as a community, work together as we always have. Thank you, Barbita. Thank you, Precinct Council. Thank you, everyone.
I'm going to bring up Tom Messina. He's got a special message which Congressman Crowley recorded. Tom?
Good morning, everybody. We're a little technology challenged here, but Joe made a video for Jimmy, and other than having different mothers, these are as close as brothers can be. Joe and Jimmy are just, their love for each other is unwavering. They have such a respect and camaraderie. So Joe made a video for Jimmy, and he just wanted to share it with everybody. We were going to have it here, but they couldn't get a screen up. So here's Mr. Joe Crowley.
I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight at the 4th Precinct Community Council as you celebrate Jimmy Vaca. Jimmy's one of my favorite people in all the Bronx. And Jimmy, thank you for what you've done for your community, for our community, for the 45th Precinct, for the people that love and adore you. You know, as Jimmy Vaca would say, Jimmy, I want you to know, I love you, I love you, That's all there is to it, okay? Love you, Jimmy. God bless.
Thank you. Jimmy, I will give you this. I'll send it to your phone.
Now, listen to me. Joe Crowley is my dear, dear friend, but that imitation of me needs some work. Let me tell you something. Right now, I'm going to call the congressman, and he's... No, I appreciate. Joe Crowley is my dear friend, and I love him. And the imitation's got to be brushed up, that's all. Thank you.
something on our program. I'm going to ask Captain and Joe Boyko to come up and do our next honoree.
I'll call you later, I got you. Uncle Jimmy!
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. To continue on, I'd be remiss if I didn't say while we had Chief McCunin and Chief Green here with us, I want to thank you for sharing Captain Goins with us. He's been wonderful the last year. We finally broke him in. He's now part of the country club. And he certainly has a good team support from the community council and from the officers within the precinct. And we just want to say to you, don't move him on up and out, which is a habit that takes place within the 4-5 precinct. You can move him up to deputy inspector, yes, but not out. We'd like to keep him yet. So I'm going to ask Noel Ellison if he could also join me. He's the general manager of Co-op City. The honoree, Junius Williams, I've come to know over the last several years pretty well. He's a very tenacious guy, a little crazy at the same time. He has been active in community activism for years, was a part of the YMCA years ago. But his true heart is in safety and well-being for those in his community. And he walks around the community, takes notes of issues he finds that he feels is not safety worthy. Copious notes he actually takes, and he sits down with the chief of our public safety department, chief of our director of the public safety committee of the board of directors, and he's an active member of the board of directors public safety committee. He has been helpful in obtaining additional cameras for the community. We have over 800 cameras in Co-op City. He has helped gain additional cameras, security for the rooftops, etc. And most recently, he was very active in working with Assemblyman Benedetto in obtaining a grant through the Assemblyman to have cameras put in and around the Co-op City community that the NYPD could watch and observe incidents within the community. As I said, he's a little crazy. We love him for that. But who else would go around putting on a hoodie and sitting behind the building to see if public safety is going to stop him and question him why he's there? I don't, in this day and age, recommend anybody put on a hoodie and do that. It's not the safest thing to do, but that's why I call him a little crazy, and we truly love him for that. So for that, we recognize you today and thank you for your heartfelt thoughts and concerns for the safety and well-being of our community. And I'm going to ask you to please come up, and if Ms. Ellison would like to say a few words.
When Junius first told me that he was going to run for the River Bay Board of Directors, I kind of figured he'd win. So I gave him suggestions to read 2 books. The first book was The Power Broker about Robert Moses, to see how business and politics sort of works in a city like New York. The other is The World is Flat by, I guess, Mr. Gobin, who talked about how technology is changing the world as we know it. And as I've watched Junius, I realized he didn't read none of them books. But I realized that Junius is a man of few words, and I guess I'm not being good at Greek mythology and Greek philosophers. There was one, I believe it was Euripides, who was a guy who was an eloquent speaker, and there was a guy, Demosthenes, who was a guy who simply did stuff. And I tend to like guys who sort of follow Demosthenes and just use their feet to do their business. Junius is a man of few words. He probably won't be as humorous as Jimmy Vaca, who I love and such. But he speaks from the heart, he acts from the heart, and he's been a great godsend. This world probably can do with a lot fewer speakers and a lot more doers. And in essence, Junius is one of those individuals. So at the risk of talking too much and being one of them people the world can use a lot less of, I'd like to introduce my good friend and brother, Mr. Junius Williams.
Hello, Co-op City. Noel said everything, so good night. No, but on the real side, I'm sitting there and I'm going through a range of emotions. And what really touched me was when I saw the officer, there's two kids come up and they were taking pictures with them. And first of all, I want to say my heart goes out to all the officers that patrol our community. But my prayers go out to the families that support them. See, because it's easy for the officers to go do their jobs. The hardest thing is for a family to sit home while they're outside doing what they do and not knowing if they're going to come home safe. So I was sitting there and I'm just so emotional about that, to see his little two sons come up that look just like him. So with that being said, I got a prepared statement that I want to make here. But I grew up in the Hell's Kitchen in the 50s and 70s. And you can't come up with a more diverse community than that. I've moved to many places in the Bronx, and I've been living in Co-op City for 8 years. The diversity in Co-op City is what I want. I never want to live in any community where they have the same group of people there. I like diversity. Diversity is what makes us stronger. See, and I'm trying to make Noel a liar by coming up with some words to say. I'm going to read my statement, so bear with me, please. I'm truly honored to accept this award. Through all my trials and tribulations, the good and the bad, I always felt the presence of God looking out for me. As I've gotten older, I've become very adept at connecting the dots which have brought me here. I can only conclude that it was God who has led me to this point in time in my life. I do the things I do because of the blessings He has bestowed upon me, and I can never, ever repay the blessings I've received. I will always be in the deficit with Him. I'll always fight for the betterment of my community. To quote the Reverend Martin Luther King, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Thank you, and God bless everyone. Oh, excuse me, and happy Mother's Day, ladies.
It's my pleasure to present Junius this plaque, which reads, 45th Precinct Community Council presented to Junius Williams, Director, River Bay Corporation, Public Safety Committee member and advocate. Thank you for your outstanding leadership and dedication in keeping this community safe, and for your continued support of our police officers, making our community a better community in which to live.
Oh, yes. Okay, next up, Captain Gons and John Doyle will do our next awardee.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. If this goes on much longer, I'll be saying good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all. Our next honoree is a friend of mine, Fred Ramftel from City Island, right over here. Let's give Fred a hand. Absolutely. Just so you know, when Fred walked in here today, I looked at him and I pointed at him. I said, "Don't worry, Fred, I'm going to give you your due." And he got a very worried look on his face because he's been here before and he knows that I've spoken about a lot of people. Fred is a lifelong City Islander. He resides on Carroll Street at the same property which his grandfather last purchased for him purchased for the family rather, in May 1921. So Fred, of the 7 honorees from City Island, you are only the second clam digger to get this award. So wanted you to know that. As a youngster, he attended PS 175, just as others were raised here. He and his friends played behind the school in Hawkins Park and in the Tier Street lot. At the age of 12, he was riding his bike and hit a pothole. That is when Fred began to play an active role in the betterment of our community. Instead of complaining, Fred did what he does best and started a letter writing campaign to all the local officials. Later that year, the street was resurfaced, and since then his involvement has grown. Many remember him as one of the individuals who worked under the Garden Club of City Island to keep our streets clean for many years. Fred is also involved in many organizations in the community. These organizations include the first vice president of the City Island Civic Association, the president of the City Island Republicans, and district leader of the 82nd Assembly District, Part 1. He's a treasurer and trustee of the City Island Historical Society and vice commander of the Sons of the American Legion. In his spare time, he enjoys swimming, driving, both his truck and his car, traveling, and attending sporting events. And Fred, and we were talking about this, we have, Fred, like me, when you make the sacrifice for community life, you give up a lot of your spare time and you go to a lot of meetings. And as Fred can tell you, a lot of these meetings go on very long, and people get rowdy, they start popping off, they start being a little bit of blowhards. And after the meeting, there's always a circling up moment. Who's going to do what? And after the meetings, I usually am pretty revved up, and I'm going at about a mile a minute. And Fred will just look at me, and we'll have a short discussion. He goes, "I know what I have to do." And I'm sure, truth be told, later that night, Fred, always working behind the scenes, he'll be on the phone, he'll be calling the agencies, calling 311, putting in those complaint numbers, sitting on the line with the operator for the better part of 30 minutes, which is not easy to do. And that's the work that he does, and he doesn't do it, and that's why we have this award, frankly, is there are a lot of people who work very hard behind the scenes that don't do this for fame, don't do this for notoriety, some who you have to kind of drag to agree to get this award, which I appreciate. You didn't make me drag you too far. And we were talking about this recently, Fred and I. We were out at a social function, and he had commented how community life had recently gotten a little bit too partisan. And Fred, I know we don't agree on everything, as you know, and given my past, but I know you care just about as much about the community as I do, and I know we both want what's best for our community and our neighborhood. I know sometimes we just have a different approach to how we get there. And that's always reflected in the work Fred does. It's always about what can he do for City Island. And again, anyone can pop off, but when the work needs to be done after the meeting, when things actually need to happen, phone calls, emails, letters, Fred is one of the people who stands up, and it's rare that we have people who do that. And again, Fred, one way we are alike is we both have absolutely atrocious sleep habits. Most of the work and the emails Fred and I exchange between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. If the cops ever look into that, they would probably think we're running a crime syndicate. And the truth is, and why I think Fred is very deserving of this award, is people like Fred will always be around because people like him are so rare. They're the people who walk the talk. And we need more people like Fred to follow that example, to step up, to do the work, and do what's right. So Fred, without further ado, I'm going to call you up to speak and say a couple words.
Thank you. I'm not going to talk long, but I just wanted to thank everybody and thank the hard work of the Precinct Council and the Precinct. I know they have to deal with us community leaders, but we all manage to get along, and that's why everything happens for the better. One other thing I'd just like to say is that the key to a strong community is involvement. You go on the social media site, you see many people, they complain, there's a pothole, there's this, there's that, but that's all they do, complain. But the way to get something done is make that 311 call that agency, and that's also part of what's called involvement. And the more people that get involved, the stronger our communities are. Again, thank you.
And also one more thing as Fred leaves the stage here, and because he kind of alluded to it. As Fred was saying, a lot of people complain on social media, but Fred is the only person I know that when someone complains on social media, Fred will actually respond with a 311 number because he took the time to call on the complaint they put in. So let's give him another hand. Thank you, Fred, for all that you do. Okay. The next honoree, I think, has brought about half the room here today, so we want to thank him. Let's all give a hand for Mike McNerney. And Chief Napolitano from the 911 call center is also here, who he works with, so we just want to give a special recognition to. We knew we could keep Mike for later in the program since he brought so many people here. We knew we had those people locked in. So thank you, Mike, for your patience and for all your loved ones' patience over here. What you need to know, there are many things you need to know about Mike. He was actually nominated for this by his lovely wife, Patricia, who not only said they could bring several tables, which I think is the understatement of the year, but wrote this absolutely wonderful biography for him. So Mike, if you continue to rise through the ranks, I want you to know you can just give this over to a reporter and make their write-up of you very easy. And if you ever cross your wife, it's good to know that your obituary's already been written. Mike, as many people know, is the president of the Country Club Civic Association. He's a decorated 17-year active veteran of the NYPD, working at many different precincts. He's actually also past and current member, I believe, of the New York City PBA. He's been the president of the Country Club Civic Association for 5 years now. And in that time, he's been writing Fixing Neighborhood Problems. He's been doing their community cleanup day. He writes their column for the Bronx Times Reporter, which is always a wealth of information, and I know he receives many compliments on that. He started Operation Light Up the Night, and you know, again, he's been taking the lead on many quality of life crimes, from going after some of the people who illegally enter onto properties to collect cans, and making sure there's a safer neighborhood. And it's often he's partnering with DA Clark and others to make sure that when an offender is brought before the court, that the community has spoken out and that they get the toughest penalty possible. So Mike, thank you for the many things you do, which are all written here, which I'm going to just cut for brevity of time. But Mike really does do a lot. It's not just a title for him. He's putting in the work each and every day. And again, as is written here, you know, he has 2 young children, and he actually brings them to a lot of the events to instill in the next generation a lot of the service that he does. And I think that's really the thing here, is Mike came up, for those of you, I've actually been blessed in the sense that I've actually seen almost all of Mike's community activism over the years. And when Mike came up, it was really due to, you know, perseverance, hard work, and sheer force of personality. You know, not everybody is as lucky to have someone as Councilman Baca who's mentoring them. And I know when Mike got his start in community life, sometimes signs were not as encouraging as they could have been. But Mike, again, is a hard-working person. He stuck with it. He wouldn't be deterred by people who maybe didn't show him the way or slam doors in his face or things along that nature, because he believed in a better neighborhood, and a better neighborhood for Country Club and the larger community. And I will say, as a testament to his character, Mike, it's never, and I actually informed his wife of this in the past, it's never been an issue of if we would honor Mike. It was an issue of when we would honor Mike. And this breakfast has only been going on, this is the 7th year of this breakfast. So we have had, and Bob will tell you this, a lot of community leaders who are older, and we want to make sure that we can honor them so that they know how much they've meant to us while they're still here. And that has not always been easy. And Mike, I gotta say, even though he was not always guided, even though some of these people were not always particularly nice to him, Mike could not be more understanding of honoring some of those people throughout the years. Last year, we honored Sal Gracia, who has since passed, and Mike, you know, when we got on the phone with him, Mike's known he's going to get this award probably the last 5 years, but he's always understood the need to honor our history and to honor those who came before us, even if they weren't so nice to us. And you know, I think that's one of the reasons Mike has been an effective leader, because Mike understands very clearly that you need to unify people in order to lead. You don't vilify people, you don't divide people, you don't tribalize people. You have to unify people, even people you may not agree with, in order to get things done. And I think that's really the reason so many people from Country Club are here today. How many people, hands up, are here from Country Club right now? I mean, you see it right now. These people are here, they probably don't agree with Mike on everything, but they admire his ability to be a leader and his ability to get things done. So without further ado, Mike, why don't you come on up here and share some words with us?
I'm going to grab it because I want to actually speak to some of the crowd that's here. Thank you, John. Phenomenal introduction, and John's right. You know, we have a lot of differences. John and I, a lot of times, don't see eye to eye, but guess what? We go out and grab a beer together on occasion, and we have that opportunity to get to know each other and speak to each other on a more individual level. Thank you to the entire 45th Precinct Community Council for this wonderful opportunity here today. Members of the dais, Captain Gons, I don't know, anyone else still here from the dais? Captain Gons, let me tell you about this guy real quick. This guy's crazy. I'm on the phone with him last week. Who called? You called me, I think, right? Called me. And it was the night of that big storm that we had here, right? The trees fell down all over the neighborhood, cars were destroyed, right? And as if he wasn't busy enough that night, at like midnight, he called me up and we're on the phone for 1 hour together. So from midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're talking about what had happened during the day, and then it went on into talking about the community, what's going on, concerns. So I said to him, I said, Captain, I'll let you get back to work. He goes, no, I'm not at work, I'm home. I said, but you were just at work. He goes, well, I spoke to you as I was driving home on a Bluetooth device, of course. And I said, well, where do you live, in Orange County? He said, no, I live in Yonkers. I go, how does it take you an hour to get home to Yonkers? And he goes, no, I've been parked in front of my house for the past half hour talking to you. And I said, Captain, go inside. He goes, what am I going to go inside for? He goes, to watch TV? He's like, I'd rather BS with you on the phone and see what's going on in the area. So Captain Gons, fantastic job. Like you heard John say, I've been an NYPD cop for 17 years. I was a PBA delegate for 5 years. So I really like the fact that at today's breakfast, you honored the cops first and foremost. Congratulations to all you guys. And now, let me address some of my audience here. I just want to say, to my family, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here to support my family who came from out of town. We got Saratoga, we got Atlantic City sitting right over here at this table. So they drove in from far away. Chief Napolitano, my commanding officer, of course, thank you for being here. The executive board members of the Country Club Civic, Joe Menta, Vice President, Allerton Avenue Association. We have some civic leaders here. Of course, the members of the Country Club Civic Association. You guys are the root core of our organization, so thank you for being here. The police officers and sergeants from Communications Division, PSAC 2, hoorah, there you go, right there. Thank you for being here, my fellow co-workers. Of course, the Theo Caroni American Legion, Post 253. I love you guys, my fellow veterans. And we have members of the New York City PBA, and also Frank Soto, first guy I ever spoke to at the police academy. And Chris Kennis, the guy who used to make fun of me for reading the legal notices in the Bronx Times newspaper. So he's the only guy who actually reads those things. But in all sincerity, I know I left someone out, I apologize. But I just want to say, John covered a lot of the bases. Who, what, when, where, right, of who I am and what I do. I think maybe we didn't cover the how and the why. How am I able to do what I do, being a father of 2 young kids, an active cop, stuff like that? I'm able to do it because of my executive board members and because of my general members. These people take on such a workload. When we do these civic events, these activities in public, they're the ones who come out, they're the ones who paint over the graffiti, they're the ones who do all that stuff. So I give you guys a tremendous debt of gratitude. To my executive board members, most of them had to be at work today. My wife Patricia is our membership director. My sister Angela is our event director. Rich Kilgan, retired NYPD sergeant, our grievance committee chairperson. Thank you tremendously. You guys do so much work. So congratulations. And I'll just leave you with the why. Why do we do this? Well, John covered it. When I first came on the scene, I'll tell you, I don't know if it was age discrimination, I don't know what it was, all right? But my predecessors did not like me, all right? Can you believe it? And I was actually accused. I was accused of being some young guy just popping up on the scene, trying to become an elected official, trying to build a platform, and it hurt, you know? But I think after 10 years of doing this, I've kind of proven that to be false, right? But the why. Why do I do it? Well, James, Maria, can you stand up real quick? Stand up. This is why, okay? The future generation, the children, okay? So that way they can live in a decent area, be proud of where they live, and be proud of their parents. But that didn't just come out of nowhere. Where did that come from? That came from my education. We often talk about education, right? I got cops here from School Safety Task Force. They deal with kids all the time, all right? We talk about education. The education can't start in the school. The education has to start in the home, correct? Thank you. Okay. And I mentioned all these people here today because a lot of times these people, the people who are involved, I simply steer the ship. That's it. But the people who are involved don't get enough credit. And there's one person sitting here today, my mother, Rosalie McNerney, Allerton Avenue Association board member. Her and my father, Jim, they gave me that education. They taught me. We were never rich, okay? I grew up on a house off of Allerton Avenue, on Laconia Avenue, semi-attached house, shared driveway. But we went on nice vacations, but we were never rich, right?